Kathleen Kennedy has destroyed Lucasfilm and Star Wars, and now, according to rumors, Disney has seen it all. And thanks to Kathleen Kennedy, Disney has seen that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm have made a huge failure at the failure, and they see Dave Filoni as someone who won't make it any better. But now there's new rumors out there that's reported that they want someone better than both Kathleen Kennedy and Filoni. Okay, and below, I will have in the descriptions more coverage on it. But welcome back to Views with Hughes, Jennifer News. This is Jerome Hughes. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, as I just said, we're going to have more coverage as I did for, a certain person that I'm talking about. I'm going to be talking about at this hour. But we've got a big rumor today. And as always, I'm here to break it down for you with no nonsense clarity. Now, before we dive in, let's remember that we live in a world of rumors and speculation, okay, especially when it comes to major franchises like Star Wars under the watch of Kathleen Kennedy and her leadership. So while today's rumor update might raise new eyebrows, let's take it with a grain of salt until we get more official word. Now, what exactly are we talking about here? Well, there's news, rumored to be exact, that Disney may have finally seen the writing on the wall after the whole, bad reception of Ahsoka season 1, a project that led by Kathleen Kennedy, and they might be saying that Dave Filoni, well, you can't carry this whole thing by yourself. Okay, they're actually reportedly looking to bring in, surprise, surprise, Jon Favreau back into the fold, not just for a TV show, but for an entire Star Wars trilogy. Okay, potentially shifting Kathleen Kennedy and her influence in Lucasfilm. All right, now that's right. It looks like Disney's gearing up for 3 major Star Wars films with Favreau in charge, potentially signaling out that Kathleen Kennedy's role is going to be reduced. Okay. Now, as we continue, go ahead and be sure to smash the like button in this video if you enjoy what I shared in it, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, click on notifications, so that way you know notified future uploads and updates. And also, I will have in the descriptions more of my previous coverage on Jon Favreau, whether it's rumors or even news and stuff. But if this is all true, it means that Disney's finally taking some much needed action after what we can only describe as some pretty lackluster Star Wars content in recent years, most of which has been overseen by Kathleen Kennedy. And many of you out there were hoping for something bigger and better from Ahsoka, but it didn't quite hit the mark, did it? I mean, I was actually one of them. I was hoping for the same thing, but if the people at the top, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and others, are realizing that it's about time, they do something drastic. You see, Kathleen Kennedy and her leadership has been the topic of debate for years now. Even I've been talking about it, and now it seems that Disney might be recognizing that the new direction is needed, potentially diminishing Kathleen Kennedy and her influence over the Star Wars franchise. And this is interesting, but yet, as we know, not surprising. But Favreau, of course, is a name we all know. Now, he's the mastermind behind The Mandalorian, and Kathleen Kennedy didn't have much to do with it. And that's a show that truly revived the Star Wars in the eyes of many fans, something that, Kathleen Kennedy has struggled to try to replicate in many of the other projects that Kathleen Kennedy has been overseeing. Now, remember, when The Mandalorian hit and suddenly we had that magical Star Wars feeling again, that was largely thanks to Favreau's creative touch, not Kathleen Kennedy. That's a skill that Kathleen Kennedy hasn't quite mastered in recent projects, if you ask me. And it seems now that, like, Disney, maybe even after Kathleen Kennedy is gone, realizes that if they want to win back the fans and steer the franchise back on course, Jon Favreau might be the man for the job, while Kathleen Kennedy potentially may be stepping out. I mean, let's think about it. This possibly affects Kathleen Kennedy and her role, along with Dave Filoni's place in all of this. You see, Filoni has been involved in some Star Wars projects over the years, from Clone Wars to Rebels, and some fans out there appreciate his deep understanding of the lore, but even Filoni's involvement in Ahsoka under Kathleen Kennedy and her leadership didn't really deliver the Mandalorian level success that fans were hoping and expecting. And, with Kathleen Kennedy, guiding the larger Star Wars vision and stuff, it seems Disney might be realizing that while Filoni has a place, he's not the one to carry the entire cinematic universe forward, especially, with how Kathleen Kennedy and her involvement has been shaping the thing. And that's where Favreau comes in. possibly as a way to take the reins from Kathleen Kennedy and maybe create a more unified direction for Star Wars itself, closely aligned with what George Lucas did. But if these rumors are true, we're looking at Favreau being handed not just one, but 3 Star Wars films. That's right, an entire trilogy led by Favreau, not Kathleen Kennedy, which could mean that Kathleen Kennedy and her influence over these films would be reduced. Okay, now this isn't just, some small decision. It's a major move that, signals Disney wants a consistent, steady hand to guide Star Wars back to its former glory, something that Kathleen Kennedy has often, well, let's just say, was unwilling to do. Now, we've seen what happens when there's too much creative inconsistency under the leadership of Kathleen Kennedy. And just look at the sequel trilogy, for example, jumping from J.J. Abrams to Rian Johnson and then back to Abrams, all overseen by Kathleen Kennedy, left fans feeling confused and divided. You see, Disney knows that they can't afford another mess like that. And this decision could signal that Kathleen Kennedy's leadership is basically being reevaluated. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy's leadership should have been reevaluated a long time ago, but with Favreau at the helm, we could see, the return to the Star Wars storytelling that, made the original trilogy so beloved, something that Kathleen Kennedy has, repeatedly struggled to recreate. And you know what? Favreau gets Star Wars, as you all know. He understands what resonates with fans and how to balance nostalgia with new, exciting ideas. But let's be honest here. Kathleen Kennedy has tried to push Star Wars in new directions, but many of those efforts, as you all know, haven't panned out. But The Last Jedi, that's a divisive film, and that was under Kathleen Kennedy's guidance. And The Rise of Skywalker, a rushed attempt to fix the problems that happened on the watch of Kathleen Kennedy. Now, let's be real here. Star Wars fans want a cohesive vision for Star Wars, and it seems that Favreau might be the person to deliver that, potentially stepping into a larger role than what Kathleen Kennedy has been able to do. Okay? And you know what? We know that Dave Filoni has been, working on Mandalorian movie, and Kathleen Kennedy is overseeing that project as part of her ongoing involvement with Lucasfilm. But here's the thing, though. You see, the rumor is that all of these upcoming projects, including the Filoni movie and the rumored Rey film, which is also under Kathleen Kennedy's purview, could be tied into one cohesive trilogy. And at the center of it all, Jon Favreau, possibly marking a shift in leadership, away from Kathleen Kennedy. Now, this is where it really gets interesting for Kathleen Kennedy and her future at Lucasfilm. You see, it seems like Disney might be positioning Favreau as the new Kevin Feige of Star Wars, the guy who oversees everything and keeps the franchise on a steady course, or so we hope. A responsibility that Kathleen Kennedy has struggled to maintain. And that's the case. We could be looking at a more unified Star Wars cinematic universe where there's a clear vision moving forward, something that, Kathleen Kennedy hasn't, consistently delivered. And let's be honest, Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy has been plagued by creative disarray, and this shift could indicate that Disney is ready to move past that, hopefully, with Favreau possibly taking over the leadership role from Kathleen Kennedy. But what exactly does this mean for Kathleen Kennedy herself? Well, let's say this. This rumor doesn't look too great for Kathleen Kennedy's future at Lucasfilm. And Kathleen Kennedy has been in charge since, I think, 2012. And while there were successes on her watch and stuff, there was also plenty of missteps. If Disney is bringing in Favreau to essentially run the show, it's hard to see how Kathleen Kennedy and her role won't be reduced. You see, Disney knows they need a win with Star Wars, and if they think Favreau is the one to deliver, then they'll give him the reins, and Kathleen Kennedy might have to step aside. And Kathleen Kennedy's tenure has been marked by a lot of creative struggles, and this could be Disney's way of course correct and potentially sidelining Kathleen Kennedy in favor of Favreau's leadership, whether she's gone or she's staying, but they gave her a reduced role. Now, I know some of you might still be thinking, but what about Kathleen Kennedy? Isn't she still in charge? I mean, yeah, sure. Kathleen Kennedy is still officially ahead of, Lucasfilm and with the whole thing of Star Wars. But these rumors, if they're true, it looks like Disney might be quietly moving her out of the spotlight. You see, Favreau has proven himself with The Mandalorian, the first 2 seasons at least, and while Kathleen Kennedy's projects have bad results. Favreau's track record speaks for itself. And while Favreau hasn't been perfect, The Mandalorian season 3 wasn't as strong as the first two, wasn't good as them two. If he's shown that, well, he's shown that he understands what fans want in a way that Kathleen Kennedy hasn't consistently managed. And consistency is something that Star Wars desperately needs, especially as Kathleen Kennedy and her vision has often led to, uneven results. So what does this all mean for Kathleen Kennedy, and the future of Star Wars? Well, if these rumors are accurate, then Disney's taking the steps to make sure that the franchise course corrects, and that could mean that Kathleen Kennedy's role will be diminished. And they need someone who can bring back the magic of Star Wars, someone who understands how to balance the legacy of the original trilogy with fresh storytelling, and it looks like Jon Favreau might be the one to do that. But Kathleen Kennedy's era may be coming to an end with Favreau stepping in to lead Star Wars into the future, okay? But let's also remember this. This could be the dawn of a new era for Star Wars, one where Kathleen Kennedy and her influence fades away and we finally get the kind of storytelling we've been craving. Now, if Disney is smart and they know they need to be, then they'll give Favreau the support and the freedom he needs to lead Star Wars back to greatness, possibly sidelining Kathleen Kennedy and her influence along the way. But yeah, what do y'all think? Do you think that Jon Favreau is the right person to take over the Star Wars? And what do you think this means for Kathleen Kennedy? Let me know your thoughts with this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you might have this particular topic. If you enjoyed what I shared in this video, go ahead and smash the like button and share this video far wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already, you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification so that way you're notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.